Now we're going to move on to solving equations with decimals, and I'm going to show you two methods to approach this. And the first method I'm going to show you is just to solve the equation just as you would normally, but there's just going to be decimals in there this time. And my word of advice with this method is just to proceed cautiously. It's very easy to make a mistake or to put something in the tenths place that should have been in the hundreds or vice versa. So just be really careful when you're dealing with decimals. So we'll look at an example of this and we'll work through it just dealing with these decimals. And so something like this here, 0.3x plus 2.4 equals 0.9 minus 0.2x. Something like this, it looks like the equations that we were doing before, but now there's just decimals in there. So we're going to tackle them just as we would before, but we're just going to take our time with it and be careful. So our goal is to get x by itself, and in order to balance this out, we're going to have to move, I'm going to choose to move the minus 0.2x. So to move it to the other side, so to speak, to get rid of it, I'm going to do the opposite, which is to add 0.2x, and I'm going to do it to this side, and I'm going to have to add it over to this side here as well. So instead of writing another line out, I'm just going to stick it in there. And again, just like before, right, this is going to cancel out. So over here, the minus 0.2x plus 0.2x, those cancel out. And on the left-hand side over here, we're going to be adding those two together. So we're going to get 0.2 plus 0.3. That's going to give us 0.5x. The 2.4 here remains untouched, right? He's not going anywhere yet. And over on the right side, all we're left with, now that these two are crossed out, all we have left is the 0.9. Okay, now again, just solve this like before. You're getting x by itself, so you're going to move, in this case now, the 2.4 over to the other side. We need to get rid of it, so we're going to subtract 2.4 from both sides. So let's write that out, 0.5x. And I'll write plus 2.4 because that's still in, and then I'm going to get rid of it by subtracting 2.4. And remember, what we do to one side, we got to do the same to the other, so we're going to do the same over there. And in effect, what that's going to do is it's going to get rid of our 2.4s over here on the left, leaving us just with 0.5x. And over on the right, again, this is why I say just be cautious. 0.9 minus 2.4. We're going into the negatives now. Looks like it's going to be negative 1.5. If it helps, I often tell people to put an extra 0 in the hundreds place here. And then you can think of it as money almost, right? 90 cents subtract $2.40 leaves you at negative $1.50. And now our final step to get x by itself is we're going to divide both sides by 0.5. And when we do that, again, just like we've seen in the steps above, cancels the 0.5 out on both sides, and it leaves us with just an x on the left, and on the right we have now again, just be careful, we got a negative divided by a positive. That's going to give us a negative answer right away. And then again, if it helps, think of it in terms of money, put a 0 in. And how many times does 50 cents here go into $1.50? Well, it would go in 3 times. So x equals negative 3. And just like before, we can check this by putting negative 3 back into the place of x up here in our original question, here and over here. So there's two places we have to remember to put it in. I won't do that, but if you want as a little extra exercise, please feel free to try that out. So another example here, 3 minus 1.2p equals 0.3p minus 6. If you want, pause the video and try this one on your own, and then resume it, and you can see how you made out. And there's 2 different ways to approach this. It's like all these solving equations puzzles. You can either move your letters, your variables to the left-hand side or to the right-hand side. In this case here, I'm going to move everything to the right-hand side, or my p's, sorry, to the right-hand side. So I'm going to start by getting rid of this minus 1.2p. And to get rid of it, I'm going to have to do the opposite of minusing 1.2p, which is to add 1.2p. So let's do that. So we'll say 3 minus 1.2p, just rewriting what's there. And then I'm going to add 1.2p to the left-hand side. And remembering our rules, we're going to do the same thing to the right-hand side. So we're going to rewrite what we have, 0.3p minus 6, and then I'm going to add 1.2p over there as well. Okay, now let's see what's going to happen here. Our minus 1.2p and our plus 1.2p cancel one another out, and it just leaves us with a 3 on the left. On the right-hand side, we're going to take these two p's here, the 0.3 and the 1.2, and we're going to combine them. So that's going to leave us with 1.5p minus 6. Next, to get p by itself, we're going to get rid of the minus 6 that appears over here, and we're going to do that by adding 6 to both sides. So we're going to just, maybe I'll write the right-hand side here first. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides, so I'll add 6, and then same over on the left, we're going to go 3, add 6. Now again, on the right-hand side, canceling, minus 6 plus 6, cancel one another out, and it leaves us just with a 1.5p on the right. On the left-hand side, 3 plus 6 is 9, that goes in on the left. And our last step to get p by itself is to divide both sides by 1.5. So I'm going to do that over here and over here as well, because we got to do the same to both sides. And on the right, that's going to eliminate both of our 1.5s, because we're multiplying by 1.5 and then dividing. So it just leaves us with the p on the right. And on the other side, 9 divided by 1.5. Again, just be careful with the decimals. That is 6. And if you prefer to write it the other way, sometimes some people prefer to see it written this way. P equals 6 rather than 6 equals p. Either one's fine. All right, and one last example. This one here is a little bit different from the rest because this one here, some of our numbers, in fact all of our numbers, are going to the hundreds place, right? We only went to the tenths before, so 0.18, right? So going 2 places after the decimal now instead of just 1. So these are a little bit trickier. Just be extra cautious when dealing with them. And just like before, goal is to get n in this case by itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to, I'll try to get rid of this 0.16n. I'll move it over to the other side, so to speak. So do that by subtracting 0.16n from both sides. So let's write out everything in completion here. 0.18 minus. Now I'm going to subtract from both sides. I'll do it in a different color. Minus 0.16n from the left-hand side. There, and then the equal sign comes up, right? Follow the pattern up above as you're writing this out. Plus 0.16n, and then we're going to do the same to both sides. Oh, we're going to do the same to both sides, so we're going to subtract 0.16n from the right as well. Now watch what happens. Over here on the right, it looks like the 0.16 minus 0.16 cancels out. And it looks like that's just going to leave us with, on the right-hand side, 0.78. Now, on the left is a little bit trickier. Just got to be really cautious with it. The 0.18, obviously, this part right here, he's going to remain untouched. Just going to stay in there as 0.18. But we're going to have to combine these two. Negative 0.14 minus 0.16. Well, that's going to bring us further into the negatives. So we're going to be at minus 0. If you can do that addition in your head real quick, 30n. Right? We're combining those. So we're combining, I'll just jot it up here in the top corner here. We're combining 0.14 and 0.16. So we're getting 0. And if you do that addition, it should be 30. So that's where that came from. Now again, we got to continue. Now our goal is going to be to, looks like we're going to try to get rid of this 0.18 over on the left, move it over to the other side. So in doing that, we're going to have to subtract 0.18 from both sides. So let's just rewrite it first. Rewrite the entire left-hand side. And we're going to do subtract 0.18. And then on the right, we're going to have to do the same thing. 0.78 subtract 0.18. Now on the left, those two are going to cancel out, and it's going to leave us with, now just be really cautious here because it's going to leave us with a negative 0.3. And I've been writing 0.30. You could have written 0.3 as well. That's fine. 0.3n. And then over on the right, do that subtraction over here between 0.78 minus 1.8. 0.18. Going to leave us with, it looks like 0.6. And if you want, put the 0 in if you like. Now, last step to get n by itself, we're going to divide both sides by negative 0.3. Oh, negative 0.3. And it's important that the negative comes over here, right? We need a negative over on this right side as well. Because if you look on the right, we're going to be dividing a positive by a negative. And of course on the left, should hopefully go without saying at this point, but those two are going to cancel out, and it's just going to leave us with an n on the left. And a positive on the right here, a positive divided by a negative is going to give us a negative. And 0.6 divided by 0.3, well, how many times does 30 cents go into 60 cents? Well, it goes in twice. So even though we had all those gross looking decimals, we actually ended up with just a whole number as an answer.